There are moments in sports when you can feel a player's status changing almost in real time. One week, says the dangerous young talent people are keeping an eye on. The next, everybody on tour knows her name, opponents are studying her tape, and fans are wondering just how high she can climb. That is exactly where Alex Eala finds herself right now. After a historic breakthrough at the DC Open, she is heading north to Toronto with something she has never carried into a tournament quite like this before, the confidence, pressure, and attention that come with being a champion. And make no mistake, the Canadian Open is going to tell us a lot about what comes next. This is no longer simply a story about potential. Alex has already shown she can perform on one of professional tennis' biggest stages, and now the question is whether she can take that momentum and turn it into something lasting. To understand why Toronto matters so much, you have to start with what happened in Washington. For a casual tennis fan, the DC Open might look like another stop on the WTA calendar, but for Alex and for Filipino supporters around the world, it represented something much bigger. It was proof. Proof that she isn't just a talented prospect. Proof that she can handle experienced professionals, survive pressure, and deliver when matches get tight. That victory wasn't simply about lifting a trophy. It changed the way people have to look at her. She walked into Washington as a young Filipina still building her ranking and fighting for every opportunity she could get. She walked out as somebody the rest of the tour can no longer afford to overlook. And that run didn't feel like some random streak where everything happened to break her way. Alex had to play quality tennis. She had to serve with purpose, return under pressure, stay composed through difficult stretches, and show the mental toughness required at this level. Match after match, another question was put in front of her, and she kept answering it. That's what made the reaction in the Philippines so emotional. Fans weren't just watching one of their own compete against top-level professionals. They were watching her prove she belonged there. Familias stayed glued to screens. Filipino supporters overseas checked scores whenever they could. Young players back home suddenly had a living example of what was possible. If Alex could reach this level and win, maybe the ceiling for Philippine tennis was much higher than anyone had imagined. Now comes Toronto, and this is where the story gets even more interesting. The Canadian Open is one of the biggest stages on the North American tennis calendar, with knowledgeable crowds and a field filled with players who know exactly how to punish mistakes. Alex is arriving with momentum, but she is also arriving with a target on her back. That's what changes after you win. Opponents don't see you the same way anymore. Coaches spend more time breaking down your patterns. Returners study where you like to serve on important points. Players look for the tendencies that helped you win your previous matches. In Washington, Alex could walk onto the court with something to prove. In Toronto, she may be walking onto the court with a reputation to defend. Psychologically, that is a completely different challenge. She isn't coming into Canada hoping she might put together a nice tournament. She is coming in knowing she has already beaten high-level opposition and performed when the pressure was real. That can completely change the way an athlete carries herself. Practice feels different. Big points feel different. Even the look across the net can feel different when you know, from recent experience, that you are capable of closing out major matches. The DC Open gave Alex something every young player desperately needs: evidence. Not somebody else telling her she is good enough. Not rankings or projections. Actual evidence from the court that she can get the job done. But there is another side to that confidence. Winning one tournament creates expectations at the next one. The best players in tennis understand how to use a championship as fuel instead of treating it like the finish line. They enjoy the moment, then they get back to work. That is the next phase of Alex's development. The DC Open can become an incredible highlight in her career, or it can become the foundation for something much larger. Toronto gives her an immediate chance to show which direction this is heading. From a tennis standpoint, there will be no shortage of challenges. Alex's left-handed serve remains one of her most valuable weapons. The different angles naturally create discomfort for opponents who spend most of their careers facing right-handed players. She can stretch returners wide, open up space for the next shot, and change the geometry of a point before the rally has really begun. But the attention from Washington means opponents in Toronto will come prepared. Alex may need to vary her locations more often, change speeds, use different spins, and avoid falling into predictable serving patterns when the score gets tight. Her baseline game will be just as important. Alex has shown that she can strike the ball with both pace and precision, move opponents around the court, create openings, and step in aggressively when she gets the right ball. The problem is that the Canadian Open field will feature plenty of players who can do exactly the same thing. They be powerful. They be athletic. They want to take control early in rallies. That means Alex's ability to manage tempo could become one of the biggest keys to her tournament. Can she slow a rally down when an opponent is trying to rush her? Can she suddenly accelerate when she sees an opening? Can she remain patient without becoming passive? Those are the small decisions that separate good performances from deep tournament runs. Then comes the mental side, and this might be even more important than the technical details. Every player experiences doubt during a match. Maybe the opponent catches fire. Maybe you lose a couple of close points. Maybe the crowd gets behind the other player. Maybe a set starts slipping away faster than expected. That's when confidence built from previous victories becomes invaluable. Alex can now remind herself that she has already been through pressure and come out on the other side. She has already beaten strong opponents. She has already stood in difficult moments and found answers. Those memories matter because when everything gets chaotic, a player needs something solid to lean on. The Toronto crowd could also become a fascinating part of this story. Canada has a significant Filipino community, and there is every reason to believe Alex could feel plenty of support from the stands. Imagine her walking onto the court and seeing Philippine flags, hearing Filipino fans calling her name, and realizing that even thousands of miles from home, part of home came with her. That kind of support can be incredibly powerful. It can lift a player when energy starts dropping. It can make a road tournament feel a little less like the road. At the same time, it also adds emotional weight. Alex isn't just carrying her own ambitions anymore. A lot of people see their pride and hopes reflected in what she is doing. That bigger cultural impact is impossible to ignore. The Philippines has produced outstanding athletes across many sports, but women's tennis at the highest WTA level has never traditionally had this kind of Filipino presence. Alex is changing that match by match. Young Filipino girls picking up a racket now have somebody they can watch and say, "She did it, so maybe I can too." That may eventually become one of the most important parts of her legacy. A breakthrough athlete doesn't only collect wins. Sometimes that athlete changes what an entire generation believes is realistic. Success also creates practical opportunities. Strong results can improve ranking position, influence seeding at future tournaments, create sponsorship interest, increase media exposure, and give a player greater financial stability as a professional. Every match matters. Every ranking point becomes part of a bigger picture. Washington was one major building block. Toronto is another. If Alex puts together a deep run against another strong field, the conversation changes again. Then people stop asking whether the DC Open was an isolated breakthrough and start wondering whether this is simply her new level. Still, expectations need to stay realistic. Toronto will be tough. The field includes players with more titles, higher rankings, more experience, and years of familiarity with these kinds of high-pressure tournaments. They will have studied Alex's recent matches. They know what worked for her in Washington. They'll look for ways to attack her serve patterns, disrupt her baseline rhythm, and force her into uncomfortable situations. Nothing about the next tournament is guaranteed. Alex will need to adjust from match to match, execute when points get tight, and stay calm when an opponent takes something away from her. And maybe that is what makes this next chapter so compelling. There is a point in every athlete's career when being the underdog starts disappearing. People stop saying, she has nothing to lose, and start saying, she should win this. That transition can be harder than the original breakthrough. In DC, Alex was chasing something. In Toronto, she may feel like she has something to protect. Learning how to carry those expectations without letting them tighten your game is part of becoming an elite professional. For Filipino supporters, though, the excitement is completely understandable. They have watched the training, the sacrifices, the difficult losses, the comebacks, and the steady climb. The DC Open trophy felt like confirmation that the work was leading somewhere real. Toronto now feels like the next test. Can Alex maintain that confidence? Can she make another deep run? Can she prove the breakthrough wasn't one magical week, but the beginning of a much bigger chapter?